Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2005 FRA UK Heavyweight Championship. I'm your host and commentator Patrick Epworth, and over the next however many minutes it's going to take, we are going to tell you the story of the 2005 UK Heavyweight Championships hosted by Roaming Robots, the second to be hosted after the end of Robot Wars in 2004. The format is the same as last year's qualifier shows held across the country, with the finals held this time in Folkestone. So before we get to those finals and show you all the fights that we can, bearing in mind there is a lot of footage that is missing from this season, we are going to take you through the qualifier shows in the road to Armageddon. And once again, bear in mind any fights that aren't shown, we will tell you the story of them as best as we can, so that you know how the tournament unfolded. Let's see how it unfolds right now.
For 2005, 20 of the biggest and baddest machines battled it out over 4 qualifier rounds, hoping to score enough points and be one of the top 12 and gain access to the finals in Folkestone. We saw some incredible fights with many thrills and spills, and this is the story of qualifying. Round 1 took the machines to Merthyr Tydfil, where just 2 qualifying fights took place for the UK Championships. In Battle 1, the wedge-shaped Taurus took on Can-Opener, and despite being gripped by the Robot Wars Annihilator champions, Taurus managed to position Can-Opener over the Pit of Oblivion and get the win. Meanwhile, Team Mad's machine Merlin sent Velociripper end over end, chucking the dinosaur around before beaching them on their side and out. Round 2 was in the port city of Portsmouth, but it was Hades taking a dive as they drove into the pit against 4th seed Storm 2. Meanwhile, there was a titanic tussle between Robot Wars Series 7 semi-finalist Tough as Nails and Dantom Keir. It all ended in tears for Mike Lambert, however, as Dantom Keir conked out and were pushed into the pit by the Dutch machine. Tough as Nails then went on to fight Hades, who had pulled themselves out of the pit and were looking good tossing Tan around the arena. But the Dutch machine soon got to grips with its Belgian counterpart, and in this continental tussle, it was Tough as Nails who came out on top. Behemoth meanwhile took on Tanto and quickly beached them onto the arena side wall. Team Make Robotics weren't content with that, and freed Craig Danby's machine to have a little more fun. It was a rock and roll experience for the audience, and had a climax to match. Behemoth flipped by the flipper, but Tanto getting stuck underneath as the pint-sized machine fell to defeat. Other results included a win for 6th seed Chronic over Beast, Taurus picking up their second win of the campaign over Pressure, and Merlin beating Robot Wars 3 competitor Terminal Ferocity. Now there's a name you don't see very often. To Macclesfield for round 3 and a shock. Beast unseeded for the championships, throwing Big Nipper C2 out of the arena in the biggest shock of the championships so far. Then defending champions Terahertz took to the arena against Can-Opener. That punishing axe that had caused so much damage last year came raining down on the yellow and blue machine as the two machines became locked in a stalemate. Upon the restart, it became apparent that Can-Opener had significant damage to its pincers, with them hanging off. It was a relatively straightforward guess as to who won the judges' vote. Elsewhere, there were wins for Ripper, Chompalot, and a shock win for Tanto over 3rd seed U2, whose potential qualification now hung in the balance. So to Birmingham and the final qualifier show. The last chance to gain those all-important wins to gain qualification for the finals. Storm 2 slammed Pressure into a corner, immobilising the Flipper bot. Chronic picked up an important win against a weaponless Ripper. Behemoth got a shock win over 1st seed Terahertz after the mighty Axe bot got its weapon stuck in the wall. Chompalot also got a shock win over 3rd seed U2, pitting the Northamptonshire-based machine and preventing their progress to the finals. And finally, Big Nipper pitted Terminal Ferocity to stamp their ticket to the finals. So our finalists are Beast, Behemoth, seed number 2, Big Nipper, Chompalot, seed number 6, Chronic, Merlin, seed number 5, Ripper, seed number 4, Storm 2, Tanto, Taurus, seed number 1 and reigning champion Terahertz, and Tough as Nails. And here's how they line up in round 1. No second chances in this round. If you're out, you're out. And first up is Taurus against Merlin. But unfortunately, we don't have any footage of this fight. But I can tell you that Merlin progressed on through to the next round. Big Nipper versus Terahertz next up. And we only have this small footage of this battle. And as you can see, the defending champion all over the 2nd seed, controlling them around the arena. And it comes as no surprise that Terahertz go marching on. Behemoth versus Tanto next up. And again, no footage of this fight can be found, but Behemoth picked up the win as they did in Portsmouth in round 2 of the qualifiers. And finally, a fight in full. It's time for Ripper versus Tough as Nails. So, Tough as Nails here coming on the attack of Ripper. They're going to hope to grip hold of the flipper from Nottingham and put them into the pit. The Dutch machine, the only international representative left, and they've got a hold of Ripper here, and they're pushing Ripper towards the pit of oblivion, and in go Ripper. Can they get out? There's a new rule for this season. If you can get out of the pit in 10 seconds, you can carry on fighting. There's been a lot of that this season. Tough as Nails, a champion of getting out of the pit, but right now Ripper looks stuck. Very, very, very stuck, and they're really struggling to get out here, and Tough as Nails is going to just sit and wait for them to try and get out of the pit, but I think they are stuck, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think there's any way for Ripper to get out of this one. They're perched on their back like they're doing a backstand, I guess is the best term. Here's the replay. Tough as Nails straight in, grabbing hold of that yellow and green machine, and is looking to shove them towards the pit of oblivion. We didn't have a pit last season. We've got one in this 2005 season. And Ripper becomes a victim of that pit. And as you can see now, we're going to count down Ripper. They have 10 seconds to get out of the pit, as I said. And they seem incapable of doing that. And it means that Tough as Nails picks up the win and goes through to the next round. Ripper are eliminated, but Tough as Nails have freed Ripper for fun, for the audience, who can now watch a better fight in full. Although, is Ripper moving? Is Ripper alright? I think Ripper might have been immobilised, actually, ladies and gentlemen, which makes Tough as Nails win even more. Oh no, Ripper are back! Ripper are back! They're sort of moving around very sluggishly. Oh, onto the floor flipper goes Tough as Nails. Remember, this is just for fun now. We have lost Ripper from the championships. They were counted out in the pit. And Tough as Nails flipped again by the flipper. They're just giving the audience a bit of fun now. Frolicking fun in our arena. But Ripper have had really bad driving problems. They're back now. Maybe it's interference on the radio transmitter, because Ripper are finally back alive. Tough as Nails just manoeuvring itself, going in on the attack here. Ripper running away, so close to the pit, and oh, Tough as Nails almost in the pit. Of course it wouldn't count, as I've already said, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, to the floor flipper. Another addition to the live tour this season. Of course we have the flipper in Robot Wars, we have the pit in Robot Wars, but last year they didn't have either of those in a very sparse arena. but in this year's arena we have both. And it really has added to the excitement as we get into the last 10 countdown for this fight. We know that Ripper have already been eliminated, but the audience treated to some frolicking flips. So Ripper bow out. Next up is Beast versus Chompalot. However, Chompalot couldn't attend the event, so Beast has in fact received a bye to the next round. Talk about living on easy street. Chronic versus Storm 2 next up, and somewhat of a shock here. Seed number 6 defeating seed number 4, Storm 2 heading home. So this is how the quarterfinals line up. The 3 losers will enter a losers melee for the chance to re-enter into the semi-finals. First up, Merlin versus Terahertz. We only have a small clip of this, and as you can see, Merlin attaching shock-absorbing armour to the top, but it wasn't enough. Merlin the Wizard receiving multiple head lacerations and out of the competition. Next up is Beast versus Tough as Nails. So both these machines with their fair share of scalps in this competition, and it was Beast in underneath Tough as Nails first, who you feel have a slightly harder job gripping this low profile Beast. They've gone for the pit button there on the bottom right of your screen, and they'll go for their usual tactic, the Dutch machine, of gripping hold of Beast, their opponent, and shoving them into the pit of oblivion. Beast, however, again with that low profile, they're getting on underneath Tough as Nails every single time. Beast throwing themselves over, but with the Shri mech, they self-right quite quickly. And now they're pushing Tough as Nails and out the arena! What a flip from Beast! Well, let's look at the replay of that fight. Look at that, Beast straight underneath Tough as Nails. There was the flip number 1. Flip number 2 was Tan went for the pit release button. And then this one, pushing Tough as Nails to the edge and throwing them, they just bounce and sort of skitter along the rail and out of the arena. Tough as Nails into the losers melee. Next up is Chronic versus Behemoth. No footage once again of this one, but Behemoth defeats the seed to go directly into the semi-finals. Losers melee next up, and only 2 machines in this one as Merlin sustained such a battering from Terahertz that the team Mad Machine has had to pull out. Of the 2 that remained, it was Chronic who got the all-important win, reinstating them into the semi-finals, where first up, it's Behemoth against Terahertz. So the 2 machines collide almost immediately. Both of these robots battle-hardened from many years of fighting robots. It's John Reed against the Pritchards, and there's a massive axe blow, and a Behemoth reeling from this. I think that they are Behemoth, I think, are immobilised, and it was, what, 1 hit? And Behemoth, who have got the furthest they've ever gotten, back down to the final 4. They've never gotten this far in a Robot Wars or a live event, FRA sanctioned event. They've got to the semi-finals here, and they've been knocked out after 1 hit from Terahertz, who are establishing themselves as the dominant force on the live events in this early post-Robot Wars period. Terahertz shunting Behemoth now towards the pit, which will signify a complete and utter victory. What a dominant display from a terrifying Axebot. Let's look at the replay, and it was here. 1, 2, and Behemoth dead. No life whatsoever. It took 2 axe blows from Terahertz to knock out Behemoth, and then there, the coup de grace. Into the pit goes Behemoth. Terahertz looking ominously mighty. Could they become the first machine since Chaos 2 to win back-to-back UK titles? One of the next 2 competitors will stand in their way, but first they must fight each other. It's Chronic versus Beast. It's Flipper versus Flipper, the blue wedge of Chronic against the sleek black Beast machine. Both these machines competing in Robot Wars, but never to great success, and now one of them stands on the precipice of the final of glory. Of course, they have to beat Terahertz first, so they've got to beat each other first before they can even think about Terahertz, and it's Chronic in underneath Beast, standing them up on their end, or on their back even, and there is steam venting, CO2 venting from Beast, and I think they might be stuck. Is this a KO blow this early? Here's the replay. Chronic in underneath Beast, tipping them onto their back, and the Beast appears to be nothing more than a cuddly little puppy. And the count is on now, and Beast have got 5 seconds to save themselves. And out go Beast. Well, throwing them into the air, just like we saw earlier. They will probably ride Beast for a little bit more fun. Obviously, Beast can still drive, but they've been counted out. It'll be Chronic versus Terahertz in the 2005 FRA UK Heavyweight Final. But it doesn't mean that Chronic can't have a little fun beforehand against their defeated opponent, who I assume the gas must have just vented out of. There appears to be no working flipper from Beast, who have used that flipper to such great effect so far in these championships. We saw them throw Big Nipper out in the qualifying recap. We saw them throw Tough as Nails out in the previous round. But they are going down now to the blue, red and yellow machine of Chronic. Always a bit of a laugh. Back in previous championships, they're turning into a real fighting force over the last 2. Chronic now are no longer a machine to laugh at, proving that they've got the moxie to go to the championship fight. They almost drove into the pit there, but obviously they're just toying with their food now, Chronic, and they're throwing Beast out of the arena. What a flip! What a flip! Well, it was all academical from this point onwards. They'd already been counted out, Beast, but Chronic thought they'd just continue the fight for the audience. Remember, these are live events, trying to keep the sport alive. There was the flip that eliminated Beast. There's the venting of CO2 that put Beast out of the championships. But then, sportsmanship, or for the audience, call it what you will, they did throw Beast back over. And again, as I said, it's a live event. They're trying to keep the sport alive. So once what a machine has been counted out and the competition done with, they do like to play with their food a little bit more. Chronic just really getting that flipper working in preparation for the mighty axe of Terahertz. Oh, look at that flip. Just tossing Beast around. Who've done fantastic to get this far. Well done to Beast. But unfortunately, they are going home. Thrown over the side wall and out. So there we have it. Our final pits the mighty axe of Terahertz against the ferocious flipper of Chronic. But first up, we have the small matter of the 3rd place playoff. No footage of this one, but I can tell you that Behemoth defeated Beast to finish a career high of 3rd in the championship. So well done to Team Make Robotics. But now, it's time for the big one, the final. Can Terahertz become the 2nd machine in UK Championship history to win 2 years back to back? Or will Chronic knock them off their perch? It's time to find out! It's the final! Let battle commence. So it was the year 2000 when Chaos 2 became back-to-back champions in Robot Wars in what was the UK Championship back then. And now it's Terahertz's chance to do the same, but they've been flipped by Chronic immediately. And there are bits and pieces, those little warbly little spiky bits flying off Chronic everywhere. But it's Terahertz being turtle. And now, Chronic trying to get underneath again. It's Axe against Flipper. They're both stuck in the corner, both wedged together. Who will come out on top here? Chronic in a very bad position, but they flip Terahertz up and over and away. And now both machines taking their breath, taking a little bit of a manoeuvre. I'm taking my breath. This is fantastic. It all on the line here. Both machines looking to go into the annals of history, but for different reasons. Will it be the flipper or the axe? At the moment it's Terahertz scoring all the axe blows, but it's Chronic with the big flips. And every time Terahertz is just struggling to self-right. And now, is Terahertz okay? Chronic comes in on the attack. Wedging underneath, and I can't see from my vantage point. Terahertz, I think, are stuck. I think what's happened to them is what happened in one of the qualifier shows. I think the axe has gotten caught in the new arena wall. It's got a little loop between it, and I think Terahertz's axe has got stuck in it. And this is sensational. Terahertz stuck and being counted out, and it's going to be Chronic's year if they can't move. 3, 2, 1. Chronic is the champion. The 2005 UK Fighting Robots Association Heavyweight Champion. And Terahertz has failed to do what Chaos 2 did in the year 2000. They went back to back in 1999 and 2000. But not this year, not in 2005. It's a new champion, and it's a blue wedge flipper of the name Chronic. They've gone all the way here, shocking everyone. And Chronic are the champions. Here's the countdown for the end of the fight. Terahertz can't move, and Chronic get the win. Well done to them. Let's look at the highlights of this fight straight in from the beginning. Terahertz overturned, but straight over with that powerful axe. It does act as a Shremek, but it was an interesting fight. Look at that somersault, and then Terahertz straight away recovering. Raining down blows. It was very even. I think every flip looked slightly more impressive. I don't think Terahertz could really lay a glove on Chronic. No massive damage apart from those sort of yellow tendrily spikes. But every time Chronic just came back, flipping the Oxford machine. And here we can see a zoomed in clip of what happened. Terahertz thrown over, the quality isn't the best, but as they self-righted, Chronic pushed them in, I think, and the axe stuck in the fired position and stuck in the arena wall. A sensational way to knock out the defending champion. Well, there you have it. Chronic defeating Terahertz in such a bizarre manner. I'm sure Terahertz will be back to try and reclaim their crown in 2006. Behemoth completes the podium in what was a sensational year of robot combat in the UK. There's only enough time for me to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. If you liked this video, be sure to like, subscribe and leave a comment. I do love reading and replying to your comments because we have such a nice little community here, and I really hope we can help build it up as we go forward. I'll be back soon, but until then, have a nice rest of your day or evening or whenever you're watching. Bye bye.